Now let's head for the headlines. Now let's see what the papers are saying in Nigeria this morning. Is really interesting headlines across Nigeria. We have a lawyer, public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun, with us in the studio, as well as a lecturer from the University of Lagos, Dr. Dan Ekere. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Thanks. It's
Great.
nice to be here.
Now let's begin with Daily Trust. Daily Trust is our first paper this morning. AIG leads security as Adamawa decides today. APC, PDP trade words over plot to disrupt polls. Okay, that's what the Daily Trust is saying. Remember, we'll recall that INEC has issued 28th, which is today, for the rerun election in Adamawa State following a court ruling. All right, moving on now to the blueprint. The blueprint is the next paper now, and it says Tinubu, strong pillar of Nigeria's democracy. Buhari is quoted as saying that, and that's on the blueprint. From the blueprint, let's go to this day. Court permits Atiku, PDP, to serve petition on Buhari through APC. And HDP drags president, ruling party INEC to tribunal, asks for nullification of presidential election. Okay, that's on this day. That's what this day is reporting. Let's move now to The Punch. The Punch newspapers are next one now. Withheld certificates of return, Zamfara APC, governor-elect, others write INEC and head for Supreme Court. Okay. Interesting political drama there, or maybe legal drama from, that's The Punch. From The Punch, let's move to The Vanguard. The Vanguard is our next paper this morning. National Assembly leadership, all clear for Lawan. Fresh crisis brews over Gbajabiamila. Lawan, our only choice for Senate President. APC saying that, adds that no sharing power with PDP, vows to deal with betrayers. Ndume lied. We had consensus on Lawan, says Aliyu Sabi, one of their colleagues in the Senate, is saying that. That's the Vanguard this morning. From the Vanguard, let's move to Business Day. Business Day says, contrary to Buhari's directive, Malami proceeds with Trobel contract against IOCs, firm not registered as debt recovery agent. Okay, that's what Business Day is reporting this morning. From there, let's go to the Daily Sun, which is the last one this morning. He said on 9th Senate presidency, no going back on Lawan. APC is firm on that, and he has a multiple rider to explain that. Says PDP won't get any committee chairmanship except minority leader public accounts. And it's too early to say what will happen. PDP is he's saying that this morning. So we're still seeing all the drama ahead of the inauguration of the 9th Assembly sometime in June. There, leadership tussle here and there. It's quite interesting. It's political. Now, gentlemen, let's get into some of the interesting stories that I think will interest you this morning. Let's start with the Daily Trust. Daily Trust on page 3 is saying the 2019 elections, tribunal orders service of Atiku's petition on Buhari. And 3 parties filed petition against the president. Now, one would say, if you compare Nigeria to some other African countries when it comes to the dispute after any election, that Nigeria is actually getting it right when it comes to following due process. If you are not happy with this, go to court and not go to the streets. Jide, I'd like to start with you on this.
Yeah, the prevalence of the rule of law leads to peace. And we can all testify to the fact that during our elections, we have a lot of issues that trouble peace. But I find politicians submitting to the judicial intervention that also is in place. And I just want to advise the judiciary, occupying such a privilege to ensure that justice is done, because democracy is about the will of the people as reflected by the Constitution. And the judiciary is there to ensure that justice is not only done, but clearly seen to have been done. And if you look at the alternative, which is like brewing trouble in the society, that will further pull us backwards in the race towards national development. So,
all right, Dr. Kere, the point there is INEC is the body that is constitutionally mandated to declare anybody winner and loser, if you have to put it however way you want to put it. But with the processes here and there sometimes, it seems that some of the responsibility in some cases are shifting to the courts now to decide, actually, did this person win or the other person win? From that window, what are you seeing?
Well, thank you. In the first instance, I want to believe that if we organize our elections where we'll have lesser, cases in the courts, and what INEC is doing, we only have to encourage INEC to do it better, so that we don't keep ending in courts, that the courts will not decide who wins,
who actually won, and who did
and
not.
all of that. Then, on the issue of whether, INEC has done the right thing by way of declarations, that they are the only body constitutionally empowered to do that. But, when you, at the same time, after declaring somebody a winner, what happened? Does INEC equally have the power to withdraw that declaration? That's another issue entirely. We've seen that happen in, some being denied, certificate of return and all the rest. So many of those things are happening. So INEC must ensure that before you make your declaration, be sure of what you are declaring. This era of, somebody, or the body declaring or inconclusive election, or at the end of the day, after the declaration, the courts will void. I think that we can actually avoid all those.
Like in the case of Zamfara.
So many of them. At least we have the case of even Okorocha, who perhaps.
But in the case of Okorocha, I think INEC has been straightforward right from the start. When, Jide, you remember when INEC was saying, anywhere that any of our returning officer, or as the case may be, declares result under duress, would not be recognized. INEC had said that before.
That was done retroactively.
Oh, it was
actually towards the governorship election and the state houses of assembly that declaration was made. And recall that the election that declared Okorocha winner under duress was the previous election for the presidential seat and the National Assembly, because he actually vied for the senatorial seat. So it was when INEC now made that statement. In fact, I was concerned and I asked, will it apply to what you have declared? And like it's been said, I think the judiciary is the arbiter in all this to interpret the law, because it's a very tough one. And the option open to Okorocha himself is to approach the courts.
What does the law say in a situation where something is done but under duress? Would you see it as legitimate?
Duress brings in what we call in law, recognized in our laws. An interference that is not fair or undue pressure, and it's expected to throw dust on the credibility of that process. It's like you have been forced. And in this case, the returning officer alleged his life was threatened, and of course he had to preserve his life. So the point now is, I am advising we should strengthen our laws. Like Doctor said, I do not expect us to go forward with this inconclusiveness. If we need to go to the National Assembly, look at the Constitution, look at the Electoral Act, and tighten it up. And we can come up with a situation like, okay, if you are leading to a particular point and there are issues, why don't you deal with those disrupting the process as criminals and let the elections go?
AIG leads security as Adamawa decides today APC PDP trade words over plot to disrupt polls. And then we head to Blueprint. Buhari APC leaders settle for Lawan. Lawan not imposed on us. Abdullahi Ndume against executive legislative harmony. And then we'll move to this day where we have court permits Atiku PDP to serve petition on Buhari through APC. HDP drags president ruling party INEC to tribunal, asks for nullification of presidential election. And then we'll move to the Punch. Withheld certificates of return, Zamfara APC governor-elect others write INEC head for Supreme Court. And then we'll move to the Vanguard. National Assembly leadership all clear for Lawan. Fresh crisis brews over Baja. Lawan, our only choice for Senate President, APC. No odds, no sharing power with PDP. Vows to deal with betrayers. Ndume lied. We had consensus on Lawan, says Aliyu Sabi. And contrary to Buhari's directive, Malami proceeds with trouble contract against the IOC's firm not registered as debt recovery agent. To the Nation newspapers now. Senate protests in Osun over governorship election dispute verdict. Well, Senate President Buhari, APC leaders, pacify Goje, Borno Governor Ndume meet. APC senators elect woo PDP colleagues. Ruling party explains position. Other principal offices to be zoned. And the Daily Sun, a 9th Senate presidency, no going back on Lawan. All right, APC says PDP won't get any committee chairmanship except minority leader, public accounts. It's too early to say what will happen, PDP. And one story, gentlemen, on the blueprint that might interest you is the story where Tinubu, strong pillar of Nigeria's democracy, that's the President Buhari speaking. Well, the president stated this while felicitating with the national leader of the APC on his 67th birthday, which is coming up on March 29th. Gentlemen, we cannot deny that fact, the role that the national leader, that's Tinubu, has played so far when it comes to politics. I'll start with you, Jide.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. If you look at his approach to politics, you know, he's a man I have monitored, and he does not allow bitterness to becloud his vision. So he focuses on what he intends to achieve. And one of the, accomplishments that are notable about him is that he has raised leaders, really.
Yes.
And we are just appealing that as he advances in age and honor and as an elder statesman, that he should also bear on the leaders he's raising to impact the society positively, because, we practice democracy, and democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And the intention of democracy is to create prosperity. So the challenges we have in the country now, we can have a new narrative. So as we wish him greater years ahead, I want to see his influence thrown behind governance, like he has really excelled in politics. And when he was governor of Lagos State, he also showed class. So, and we need that in Nigeria desperately now, because that is what will sustain his, glowing achievements on the pages of posterity. So, we wish him the best.
Dr. Kerry, all right. We cannot really, like we have said earlier, we cannot deny the struggles. He came about from 1999 to ensure that this democracy that we are enjoying today, he was part of the struggle then. You remember?
Yeah,
and then even
before 1999.
Even before 1999, when we had the elections.
I'm actually happy that it is the president who described him as pillar of democracy. Yeah, truly he is, because what he has achieved, the president has not. Over the years, he's been able to, breed leaders to take over from him. The president was head of state so many years ago, and he still struggled to be president again, meaning that he didn't train anybody to take over from him. So he can't, I actually expect him to respect a man like Ashwaju, because...
which he does, obviously.
Yes, I expect that. And again, he has been able to show that he's a political tactician. But I'm expecting that he goes beyond, strategizing for election, bringing in leaders to the extent of development. Let's go beyond politicking.
When you say development, how do you mean?
Now, you see, one thing that he has achieved so well, although during his tenure as a governor, he did a little he could, considering the challenges of financing and the rest. Yes. But what I'm saying now is that we're looking at human resources, empowerment. industrialization. These are visions that will promote development, that will lead to some level of the well-being of the people, beyond, strategizing for elections.
But some of those that have come after him have said that the way Lagos, the blueprint for the development in Lagos, he began it.
Well, I don't know if there's any blueprint for development in Lagos, really. I don't know. It has not been published anywhere that this is a blueprint that we are following. What I do know is that over time, from time to time, he decides on who becomes the governor. His choice is critical. Now, I don't equally know if that is a choice the party makes as well. Whether he imposes it on the party is a different thing altogether. But what I'm interested in is, I'm interested in the people, empowerment of the people. Just like you've been able to pick leaders after you, let's create enough base for that. And that can only happen when we create an enabling environment for education for the people. And you see, you discover that a lot of these developments that are happening in other countries, much of them are actually, Nigerians are driving them. All right. And we need to do more of that.
Let's quickly move on to the Punch newspapers now. And a story here that would interest you, Dr. Kerry, is the fact that the federal government and ASU have resumed the renegotiation of the 2009 pact. Now, this must come to you as good news, definitely. But what would you expect to see on the table right now? Well,
negotiation is going on good, but that's not the good news I'm actually expecting. I'm expecting that negotiation coming to a close, with both parties having a position. What would be
a logical close, if I may use your words, yes, for this negotiation now?
Well, first is that, we've always had these rounds of negotiations that are never brought to be. You remember the 2009 ASU agreement, even as we speak, was not fully implemented. One thing is to negotiate, one thing is to agree, another is to implement. My interest will be that whatever they will agree on this time around will be implemented. Implementation is critical because even this negotiation ought to have taken place so many years ago. That was not done. In fact, much of it was not even implemented. So it's not enough for there to be negotiation.
That is why there's renegotiation.
There has always been, even in 2009, it was a function of renegotiation. It has always been negotiation. I want to see beyond negotiation. I want to see.
But the government had delivered on some of these things. We must agree on that.
Some, but little. When you look at it in terms of the entire package, it is little. Even the agreement that we had the last time, before the election, the question of they are going to release this, release that, we are still waiting.
All right, let's have Jide, coming now.
The International Labour Organization that was established in 1919 has stipulated best practice when it comes to labor relationship management. And I mean, we've been on this for about 10 years. So let the stakeholders respect what should be done to move this country forward. I mean, the most recent election took about 186 billion naira from our coffers. And I think we need to prioritize, to actually ask, is it the electoral processes that we can even further simplify to reduce the cost that is important to us, or the academic environment that can ignite the industrialization and enable us to catch up with the development going out in the world there. So I will advise that we set up a vision that we empower the critical sectors of our national life, and education is one.
All right, Jide Ologun and Dr. Danny Kerry, thank you for your time. On the newspaper review this morning, well, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and we're streaming live on YouTube. You can connect with us on Twitter using the hashtag TVC Breakfast. Still to come on the show.